Hi, hello, this is Jules the Human here, and welcome to the Jules the Anime Hour. I'm one of your hosts, Jules the Human, and every week we go out into the world and watch a little bit of anime. And this week we're going to be talking about episode 5 through 8 of the Duke of Death and his maid. And I am not going on this fun anime experience alone. I'm here with my co host, Matt Galley. Matt, how was your week?
My week was good. It's been it's been a wild one, for sure. Just like in terms of this show, like preparing for it this week, it was just kind
Mhm.
of like I don't know. I'm excited to
It's
talk about it. I'm excited to just get this energy out and off of me because I have a lot of energy to discuss these next four
It's
episodes.
this one has definitely been a unique experience because if this is the first time you're joining us, we watch a little bit of anime every week and we go through series, and here are all the series that we've gone through already. We've rated them, we've put them on our board from S to F tier. If you know what they look like, some of them have the names on there. We just finished The Promised Neverland. We both put those at S tier, and now we're on to the Duke of Death and his maid, and possibly, well, for sure, next week is the last time we're going to be talking about the Duke of Death and his maid because we have a ton of other ones to pick from. So next week we're going to be finishing up the whole anime and we're going to pick a new anime. And if you would like to suggest an anime for us to watch, you can do that with 500 bits here on Twitch, twitch.tv/JulesTheHuman on Thursdays. And you can put in your suggestion. You can suggest us an anime and it could be picked out of the chest of the anime chest of dreams there. But this week, episode 5 through 8, we continue down our road of this anime. And if you remember last week, we weren't, I guess I'm speaking for both of us. We weren't the biggest fans. We were hopeful though, hopeful for something to um latch us in here, and
Mhm.
maybe we got it. I don't know. Me and Matt don't talk about this before the show, so I'm definitely going to get his first thoughts as you hear them, and you're going to hear my thoughts as well. So let's get into it. Episode 5, the Duke, a Crow, and ice skating. So give us a little breakdown of what happened in episode 5.
Episode 5, we see Viola visiting the manor quite frequently over the course of a few days. Viola teaches Alice the whole Viola method, which Alice immediately starts to deploy on the Duke. And they also spend some time baking batches of bread. Sometime after that, the Duke and Alice are out ice skating on a frozen lake, and they meet Zane, a magic user, and they also find Cuff out on the lake as well. The four spend some time getting acquainted, and afterwards, Cuff and Zane invite the Duke to a witch's sabbath in order to find answers to the one who placed the curse on him. Viola swings by again in the evening hours and spends the night in Alice's room where they have a girls' night, gossiping to themselves. Episode
So
5. What did
episode
you think
5.
about this one?
Um, a lot of this stuff in these episodes. Well, okay, there was a redeeming quality in some of this stuff. Like some
Uh-huh.
in episode 7 and 8, I really did enjoy some parts of episode 7 and 8. But like a lot of this stuff is just there's like a small thread. The thread is
Super
that
thin.
the we got to go to the witch's sabbath. Okay, cool. We're going to the witch's sabbath. This is the thing that happens. This is where you can meet a bunch of witches, and we can continue on our story. Cool.
Yes, exactly. From the previous episode to the next episode, that's what we get out of this one.
But there's so much fluff around it, and it's not completely fun.
Not
This
all
whole
not
bread
all of it.
thing,
Not
this whole
most of it in
bread
this
thing,
one.
not most of it in episode 5.
Yeah,
Um,
this whole bread thing, the whole thing with the Duke kind of like trying to push like Rob and Viola into like, having their own like time together, quote unquote, like that aspect of it. And even Viola is looking at the Duke like, why are you being a creep? Like, stop it, knock it
yeah,
off. Like,
I did learn something in this episode though,
oh,
that a girl that loves a guy that's much older is apparently called a panther.
I didn't know that either. Never knew that
I
term.
was like, "What?" The
It's
Duke
like,
was
but
calling
hey,
his sister a
that
panther.
sounds right.
Yeah, I was like, "Okay, that makes sense." And then she's just like, "I can't help who I love," or whatever like that. And I was like, "Okay, this is cool." I'm okay, like, don't, I guess, misinterpret me. I'm okay with her being in love with Rob. I love that little side story. It's just how much time they actually spend on it and the way they go about doing it is really odd.
Yes.
I like, again, I also like Alice and Viola bonding. I love them like hanging out. I love the different things. We see two other characters hanging out or meeting. We see Viola and Cuff meeting for the first time and hanging out. And I'm like, later on in another episode, I'm like, oh my god, cool. Like, I'm so down for that. I'm so down for these like other little interactions and stuff. It's just how much time they spend on it when I want to know about the thing. Give me the thing. Give me the plot. I don't think it's giving me enough. Again, I want it to be more on one side or the other. It's not giving me enough etchy for me to be like intrigued, but then it's like not giving me enough story for me to be like, I want to go down this path. So
I love again, Crunchyroll comments, always save it, always save the day. Somebody saying, I love the amount of Victorian fan service we get in this show. 'Cause
sure.
it's all ankle and thigh
I mean, it's all
mostly.
thigh.
And we get,
Yeah.
yeah, but
Some
fi-
fishnet from Alice.
but I just thought that was really funny because like
Sure.
you're like I agree with what you're saying where it's like they're trying to balance like the etchy stuff with kind of the more like slapstick rom-com situational stuff
But
with all
it's
the
not
characters that
funny.
we're working with. But yeah, but then they try to balance between the two and it's not funny because it's not appealing to either. It's trying to there's a couple times where like I'm finding myself chuckle.
Yes.
Like I am laughing more in this set than I was in the first set. I'll say
Okay,
that.
sure. Yeah,
Um
mainly in episode 7 and 8, I think for me, I was like, "Oh, okay, this is funny for a moment," and then
mhm,
it just goes back to whatever.
yeah,
We meet Zane, who
Zane.
is Cuff's other magic user friend. Also, hi everybody watching live on Twitch. Sorry, I didn't say hi,
Hi, hello.
but hello everybody. We meet Zane, who is another magic user, and he's a bird person, which is cool. Um, and Zayn, I thought, would have this connection with Cuff, but Cuff has this like unrequited love for Zayn, I think, is what they're trying to portray. But Zayn just
Zane
likes girls.
Yeah. Zane sees Alice and spends a lot of time, like, fawning over Alice, and he remarks that, Alice is just so, quote, unquote, like, "Lady-like" and such, and he just wishes Cuff could be more like that, his words.
Yeah. And
And Cuff is just, Cuff is just doing Cuff things. Cuff doesn't have a single thought, and that is totally okay. I
and
love
Zayn
her
knows
for
that
that.
too,
Yeah.
right? Zayn's like, who she's the mean looking one with not a thought in her head.
Mhm.
And then they're like, "Oh, you're talking about Cuff."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Okay."
Uh-huh.
That's so funny.
But,
Um,
I do like the way that they're able to kind of create or I mean, put these 2 characters in front of us, and they have a relationship that I'm, like, bought into. I'm like, "I believe that
yeah,
this is how these 2 would interact with each other, totally."
sure.
I can totally see she doesn't have a thought, but because she doesn't have a thought, she doesn't know how to express her feelings to him, and like you said, he just likes girls, but she's constantly keeping him in check over that, and we
Mhm,
get to see that in the next episode, like, he has, a protective aura over, Cuff for sure even though
mhm.
he's like, googly eyeing at, girls for sure.
At Alice, and apparently boobs are the bomb, and we find out
Hey,
that
the Duke is a thigh guy.
Duke I literally wrote that too, the Duke is the thigh guy because he's like, "Well, I really like thighs, so, you know." And I was like, "Okay, cool, whatever, man."
And then and then see, this is where like you get those moments where I'm like, I'm getting a good laugh. He says that, and then he's like, "Hey, stop taking notes." And Alice is just right
Oh,
there,
yeah,
like
she's like
writing
this.
stuff down. Write that down, write that down. Like
Yeah,
so
that
like
stuff's
the show
funny.
does get laughs out of me.
Mhm.
And I
But I
I would talk about, every single time the show made me laugh, but then it's just like then it's not coming off in a comedic sense. It's for me a lot of the connect like you said, those connective threads that I'm looking for, they're just not layered very thick, and where they are, they're yeah, it's just
Also,
thin.
the whole having girls in each other's boobs is played off way too much. I noticed that
Way too much this episode.
this set of episodes, because I wrote down Cuff was in Alice's boobs, and that happens a lot. And I'm like, okay, cool. If it happens once or twice, whatever. But like, it's almost every episode where another girl go. That's where I'm like, if you're not going to show me them naked, like, why are you doing this over and over again? Like, are you playing? Are you trying to be like soft core, I guess, or
And
whatever?
then in earlier in this episode, Viola just kind of like feels Alice.
She's like, oh my god, they're so soft, and
Yeah.
I'm like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah, spooky. If you want to see, there's three versions of the same thing, of the same emo. But if you want to see anime girls in each other's boobies, this is the anime, I guess. But like, they're fully clothed and they're like talking about it, and it's not even like sexual. It's just kind of like there for what? For comedy, I guess.
Ecchi slapstick. I go
Etchy
back to that
slapstick.
that
Yeah,
comment that
it's
somebody
like,
left on the first set.
is it supposed to be funny that this happens often? Oh my god, Alice has so much big boobs and everybody's feeling them and it's accidental and all this. I'm like, I'm not a child, man. Like,
Yeah.
I'm cool. If I wanted that, I
It's
would go
those
to that.
things in between that like are feel like they're undermining when the show actually is like hitting those high notes where I'm like, I actually like this, and then something like that happens, and I'm just like, I roll my eyes. I feel
Yeah,
like I'm gonna roll my eyes out of my head with this show sometimes.
because Zane and Cuff are such cool
They
characters. Like
are.
Zane and Cuff could be cool.
And
Like
then
I'm so down for them to be cool witches, cool magic users, and they'll be so fun.
we get that we see right off the bat that Cuff is a fire witch, but we don't even see like really what kind of powers Zane has yet. We don't
Yeah.
really get a glimpse at that unless because we see him do something later, and I don't know if like that's just something that like all witches can do or if that's his thing. But I digress. We're not there yet.
Dan, thank you for the 35 months. I'm sorry it doesn't come up on this stream because we're doing a live anime podcast. But if you come by for another stream, I can get you the alert. But thank you so much for 35 months. And Dan said, well, what did I join stream to? We're talking about the Duke of Death and His Maid, an anime on Crunchyroll. And we're talking about episode 5 through 8, and it's a lot. So we meet Zane and they're going to the Witch's Sabbath. We have some direction of the story to go into. So what happens in episode 6? The Duke, Alice, and a night in the witch's world.
The Duke and Alice spend some time in the conservatory where the plants have become far overgrown. The Duke uses his curse to wither the plants so they will be easier to clear out, kind of prompting him to reassess the situation on his curse with the witch's Sabbath hanging over his head. The matron of the Duke's family asks where Viola has been going so frequently. Um, she responds that she's been going to, a friend's house, no big deal. Another cat crisis occurs at the Duke's manor with a cat stealing Alice's dress while she was in the shower. Afterwards, Alice and Duke, Alice and the Duke are taken to the witch's Sabbath by Cuff and Zane, cloaked as to hide their human scent. Speaking to Daleth, the witch's leader, we get many answers and yet somehow are left with more questions. Daleth tells the Duke that the witch that cursed him was a whiz at magic and she died because of it. Let us speak of this no more. I suggest you give up now, before burning the cloak off of the Duke. Everybody has to make a run for the exit portal. Afterwards, Zane and Cuff, delighting in how upset the other witches are, they depart, stating that next time they come back, they will be returning as friends instead of just acquaintances here to help him with a task.
Sure. Cool. So if you don't know this anime, the Duke, who is the main character, I don't think we have just a picture of the Duke, but the Duke, everything he touches dies, or anything he's ever touched dies. That's why his name is the Duke of Death and is made Alice. So we get some more clarity, I guess, on sort of we start this
We
episode with a
get to
little bit more
we get to
clarity.
understand the depth of the situation,
Sure.
but not
Uh
necessarily how to solve it.
yes, because he starts off here explaining any organism that touches me will die. Touching over the clothes will produce the same result,
Mhm.
is the way he
Unless
said
it's a
it.
super, like, thick layer or, iron sheets that are over him,
Yeah.
stuff like that. He can touch objects and other people, can touch the same object, stuff like that.
Yeah,
Which
and
makes
he
me
can
think,
hold
dude,
on to
if he's neat when he was kneading dough in the last episode, does that kill the yeast? Sorry, episode 6.
actually true. I mean, what's the depth of organism? I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah, it's
He
weird.
can never get sick because if bacteria touches him.
Also, Crunchyroll comments. Shout out to Crunchyroll comments because I did read on this one as well. They were like, so ever since he was a kid, he's never had a mosquito bite
Yeah,
and no bugs or anything on him. And it's like, oh,
no spiders,
no
nothing.
spiders, no roaches or anything. Oh man, I kind of want to be the Duke of Death now. That sounds great. But we go to the witch's world and we meet Daleth, who we've already met before, which Alice has met before in the big festival in town, the shopping episode.
Yeah, the shopping episode.
We
That
meet
was one of the
Daleth.
only thread implications that episode has carried so far.
Yes. Um, how did you feel about the witch's world? Also, hi CZ.
I mean,
Maybe
I liked the vibe of it. I liked the art style of it. I like
sure.
how it immediately felt like this is somewhere different. Like we are
Yes.
not in the same place. This is I liked the music that accompanied it, which
Oh
we
yeah.
don't talk about the music as much
No,
as
the
we probably
music's
should in
great.
the show. The music is one of the best parts about the show overall.
Yes.
As they go into this realm, it's like, yeah, it's all like spooky and like Halloweenish, but just like also like eerie. I don't know. I like it a lot. And then yeah, again, I like a moment where they were Zane was like, the plan is you're my siblings, you're my younger siblings. That's the plan. That's the story. So keep these cloaks on and you're fine. And then Daleth is like, "Hey, who are those new people over there?" And Cuff is like, "They're me and Zane's children."
That was so good. Yes, yes, yes.
So like
That
again,
moment.
there are moments. There are
Sure.
moments that get me for sure.
And then Alice coming back with calling him father or
Yeah.
something like
And
that.
then
And it
he's like,
was like,
"Oh, call me
okay.
daddy." It's like,
Yeah.
"Stop." Like we could have just stopped there. We had
Yes.
it. There's the moment. Um So yeah, we get that, and then and then some of the other Cuff explained to the Duke how she's a half blood, so she's
Mhm.
always been kind of seen as a monster and outcast, and they related to each other on that aspect. Some other witches start like, Zane, why would you have kids with a half blood? What are you thinking? Like there's human blood in Cuff. And he like grabs the cigarette out of one or the cigar out of one of their mouths and just like crushes it in his hand and
Mhm.
like defends, Zane with his defends Cuff with his full chest and makes them apologize
Yeah.
directly to Cuff. And you can see that like she's smitten by it.
Mhm.
She's like feels probably appreciative that, somebody's there to watch her back after the
Sure.
past that she's had.
Mhm.
So yeah,
We
I like there's a lot about this episode that I liked, but like I said, it always brings itself right back to undermining itself with the etchy scale that tries to make it something two things at the same time. And I'm like, I just want it to be this one thing.
I think I would have liked it more if like I think my big problem with this is that there's a ton of fluff, but there's also some episodes that I would if I had the direction, if I was the director of this, I would have had some episodes switched around
Yes.
so that I can get some of this stuff earlier because by now I would not be watching. If I had to wait 6 episodes for this whole witches arc thing that's going to happen, I'm out. I would have
Yep.
put the I would well, I guess they needed the shopping episode to get the Daleth you know,
I
but
mean,
did it even need to be
but
that
that's I
long?
mean, that's like if you wanna keep everything structured the way it is.
Oh, I
There's
would take
ways of like,
everything.
yeah,
I would take big chunks out. I
plot
would have.
moments itself, like if you could isolate and move them around, it yeah. Restructuring this show, it's got so much going for it. It's just not giving it to the viewer in the way that makes it the most compelling for the
Sure.
viewer to want to stick around to watch the entire show.
I probably would have gone to this whole witch world episode 3
Or 4.
already, 3 or
Episode 3 or 4. Yeah.
4, and we would already done like a bunch of stuff. We would, we've already
And like
met
episode
them.
8, maybe they're making the return to the witch's world and then like,
Sure.
getting more, and then that's like when their identities are revealed and they have to leave and escape. But the first time they go, it's kind of like, they leave with just a sense of like people are
And
sketchy on them or
and
something.
also the witch's Sabbath wasn't even anything. It was
Yeah, it
just
was
it
it
was
was
moot.
it was roll call.
It was roll
She was like,
call.
"Hey, the mandragora that we planted 20 years ago, it's finally sprouted a flower, everybody. Okay. See you next meeting." Once every blood moon, and they
What
meet
are we
up for
doing?
that.
You're wasting my time. You're also wasting the witch's time. But
And I
really,
also like how, like, one tiny minor thing, when they're escaping, one of the witches tries to like snatch Alice with her plant magic, and the Duke grabs it, withering the plant entirely, which is a callback to the start of the episode where they're in the
yeah.
conservatory withering all the plants.
Hmm.
So like that's one of the like only action moments we get, and it's
There's
like
no
I think that's
action
great.
for sure. That's cool. Yeah.
It's like an action moment, even though that's not an action scene. Just like
Hmm.
they escape, there's an attempt made, and he just saves her from it. It's like that's
Hmm.
all that it needed to be, and that's all they made it. This is great.
So the Duke ends up getting friends in the end because Zane and Cuff have said, "Hey, starting next time, we'll come over as friends." And he is super smitten. He enjoys that he finally has friends because he's never had friends. He's only had Alice for forever, and we find out later. Find out when they actually first started this
Yeah,
whole thing. But yeah, how this episode was okay, I
it's all
guess.
right. Like you said, it's just it. I want this episode way earlier, and then I
Yeah,
like probably like it a lot better. Even though there are things that I like about this episode, it's coming a day late and a dollar short.
yeah. I didn't even write any. I didn't write a whole bunch. I was just like, okay, cool. We get the whole confrontation between Alice and Daleth. That's how we get. That's how we know that this was an old witch.
Yeah.
Um,
And like yeah, we do get so we do get a couple answers. We get that the witch that cursed the Duke is already dead. So other witches, it appears, don't know how the curses of other witches work.
mhm.
And the witch that cursed the Duke was a whiz at magic, and she died because of it. So it's something. Dallas says it's like this is something unlike this is not just your dollar store curse. Like
Dollars,
this is the premium top shelf like
premium curse.
extract, like this is out there. So you just need to
uh,
give up.
no ads. All premium curse.
Yeah.
I still have the head canon that it's Alice. Somehow it's gonna be Alice that she has amnesia that she was playing her mother because she's lived for so long
You
that
know
she's
what?
somehow still alive.
Alice asked Daleth, was my mom, a witch connected to you guys? And Daleth's response was, I don't know, I was only an acquaintance of your mom's. And that's what she said to her at the festival. So we don't get anything there. Um,
Mhm.
we don't get anything there really.
No.
But
We get
um,
something else later,
I'm gonna go
don't
ahead and
we?
say that the cat is actually Alice's mom, and she, cast a spell on herself to be reincarnated as a cat, and she's
Okay.
just going around the house causing mischief for
Okay.
everybody now, just being a little cat.
We didn't get cat in these first two in 5 and 6. We get it in 7, I think. We get a little
We
bit of
get
cat.
cat in this one, right? Or the last one? I
Maybe
talked about
in one of
the
them.
when
Oh,
Alice's
the cat with the
dress
skirt.
goes
The
missing. Yeah,
dress. Yeah, yeah.
I
All
forget
right.
which episode it's in. Yeah, yeah.
And
All
then
right.
okay, and then we
Yeah.
go, yeah, cool. And then next episode it just goes and does another thing. You know what I mean? It's so odd. Tell me one story. We're already 7 episodes in. What are we doing? I know in the back of our mind that we have to find the we have to cure the Duke's curse so that Duke and Alice can be together. Cool. But you're giving me all this other stuff and you're making it all fluffy and making it
Hmm.
too much.
Hmm.
And I'm like, we're not going anywhere. We're already almost to the end. We're already past halfway.
Yeah.
Give me a conclusion. I don't think it's going to be satisfying. But what happens in episode 7, the Duke's and Alice's uneventful day?
Um, get to episode 7 right now just to go off of what you were just saying. Just yeah, the episode we're about to get into feels a lot like episode 2 out of the first 4 episodes, or like episode um or episode 3, the shopping episode, or the episode that introduces Rob, where it's just like, here's them in a bunch of situations around the house with this new character. It's like this
Situational
this feels
comedy.
like an episode 2 that
Yeah,
we're right now. And I get what they're trying to do with what happens in episode 8, but again, this is just like the restructuring concept of being able to move these episodes around, and they just would probably work a lot better. um Not to say that would make it a perfect show, but it would work a lot better in the ways that it is set up now.
sure.
Episode 7, and I would rename this episode, by the way, because it's the only one that just doesn't have the Duke in the name. So this is the Duke, the pot, the song, the painting, the vase, and the dream. That's what this episode's called.
It
With
does have
no
the
ant.
Duke in the name. It does have the Duke in it.
It says what's the title of the episode
The Duke's
actually?
and Alice's uneventful day.
Oh, my bad. Gotcha.
Episode 8 was the one you mean.
That's
Episode
right.
8 doesn't have the Duke in the name, but
Which is
continue.
fine for that. But okay, yeah. I would still rename episode 7 to that because it's a much better title than Eventful Day.
I would say just some shit happens.
With
the
no
Duke
answer
and
on
the Duke and some shit happens.
Get ready to click through the screenshot so fast. With no
Okay.
answer on being able to break through the curse, the Duke and Alice begin to experiment on different ways they might be able to break it. This leads them, no pun intended, literally down a rabbit hole of experiences over the day. Episode 7.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, they do a
I'm
bunch of
sorry. That's all
stuff.
the
Look at that.
energy I have for this one.
Look at all
This is
this.
the worst episode in the show so far,
Oh, really?
in my opinion.
Okay.
This is where it's just like you almost had me in episode 6, but you gotta keep it going, and then it just completely drops like any momentum it could have had at episode 6.
You
Because like you
know,
said, at this point we're in episode 7. We're coming down the hill now. We're coming down the hill at the finale, and I feel like episode 6. All right, here's the top of the hill. Now it can only be answers and resolution from here. And there's a little bit of the connective tissue that, all right, we found out the witch that made your curse is dead. Let's find a way to break your curse ourselves. But ultimately, it's just a bunch of slapstick situations.
yeah, now that I think about it, it is sort of like a fever dream of just nonsense here. And I'll sort of go through some of the stuff. Well, I don't even know if I want to go through some of the stuff. They find a pot, maybe a potion can make a love potion. It's silly, it's funny, all this other stuff. I'm already tired of it.
Go to the text there. I just want to point something
Sure.
out. At the top, it looks like it says healing aphrodisiac.
Yeah.
I don't know if the left is healing and the right is aphrodisiac, but
You could get them mixed up. I don't know.
they're right next to
They're
each
right
other,
next to
and
each
it's
other.
not alphabetically like structured if that's the case. So
But
I don't know.
the Duke said something really funny at the beginning of this because he started off talking about her dress again, which is like the third time that he started the show like this. He said, "I feel like all we talk about is your clothes," and I was like, "Yep, the writers did it to you, bud. I'm sorry, Duke. He was very self-aware there, and I thought it was really funny because it's not meant to be funny, like the way I'm thinking. It's just like, where's the plot? Where's the thing? We're just gonna keep talking about Alice's boobs,
You're yeah.
okay?"
You the writers are directly addressing the fact that you can't help but write the same jokes over and over. Like that's you, the writer, addressing
Uh,
that.
mhm.
We don't even have to say it. You're saying
Yeah,
it for us.
you're saying it for us that you got nothing. You have this whole storyboard, and you're like, well, I don't know. Let's have her flash her
Plug some
fishnets
boobs in
again.
here, have some thighs here, have
Boobs.
some completely naked except the hair
Yeah.
just drooping over to cover everything. Have just sprinkle pepper, salt, We're
Johnson,
good. Look
how
at
many
that.
panels? How many panels do you have before boobs? We got 8, sir. Make it 5.
And that's the thing when you take adaptation of manga, because this is an adaptation of a manga, where you have structured panels where it's the reader that, you know, sets the pace at which they're reading. You can get through manga chapters very quickly, and when they're only taking a couple chapters of stuff that might not have a lot of dialogue, it might just be a lot of panel to panel stuff happening. But then you put it on screen, whereas something in like a battle shonen panel to panel, they're adapting these small moments into these huge scenes with like all of these crazy effects and
Yeah.
action scenes going on. But you get something like this where there's not a lot that's kind of, yeah, tying it together. Even if the animation might be good, if there aren't visually interesting things happening, you're gonna get the watcher losing interest.
Last week after the episode, you looked it up and we were talking about it after the show that this manga isn't done yet,
Yeah,
right?
correct.
I don't think it should have been an anime yet until the manga was done because then you could have the full story and then pick and choose to dive into something or not. Because right now it feels like they're like, oh, we have 5 volumes. We have to adapt everything square by square. And it's not much substance, like you said, but in a manga, it's easier to do because you're reading at your own pace and there's a lot going on. But like, I feel like they should have waited till the show or till the manga was done so that they can focus on the big beats. Because
Mhm.
right now they're focusing on all the little beats and it's exhausting.
Yeah.
And like it's fun, it's silly sometimes, but like we don't need this episode 7 where it's about the pot, it's about the book, it's about the song, the painting, them
And the vase
hiding from
and the dream.
Rob,
Yeah.
the vase, and then at the end we have a long after credit scene of a
Of a
Alice
dream.
in
It's like,
Wonderland
I like the
dream.
dream, but, like, I want that moment way before all the other stuff that's going on. Like, I want that dream back in episode, like, 4, where it's like, after I'm convinced that, like, there is an emotional bond between these 2, then you hit me with the dream because it's like they just can't have what they both want. And then the viewer, I'm emotionally drawn into seeing a resolution where they both get what they both want. But this is episode 7. This
Uh-huh.
is this is a post-credit scene in episode 7.
The whole I really did like the music part with McFarlane being thing. I don't know. It was so weird. It was so off. Cool. As a fun little vignette, fine. But again, in an episode 7 of everything else going on, the whole painting thing, I was like, where I zoned out.
The
I zoned out for a
painting
minute. I zoned
threw
out for a
me off.
second. And I was like, what are we doing? I was like, wait, what's happening? And I was like, wait, we're doing this whole thing for the doesn't make I don't care. I don't care. We just had a huge story beat. Well, it's not huge, but the biggest one
Biggest one so
in the
far. Yeah.
story that like we know that the witch is dead. So we
Yeah.
have to figure something out and them doing all this other silly stuff to try and break the curse. Mm,
Yeah.
mm. I like Rob. I like the characters.
Yeah.
I like the characters.
That's
I
what I
like
mean. It's
Rob.
enjoyable. There's stuff to like about the show, but it's, yeah, it's just not giving it to us in the most palatable like way, in terms of progression of everything. And that's episode 8 is where the most amount of like emotional recoil I have watching this show for sure.
So let's get into episode 8, which should have been like episode 5.
Yeah.
White snow, black clothes. What happens in episode 8 of the Duke of Death and his maid?
Yeah. So episode 7, I wanted to rename. Episode 8 is the one that I wanted to point out. The only one that doesn't have the Duke in the title, which, yes, it's because it's not really about the Duke that we come to find out. Episode 8, a couple things at the front. We get a short look at Rob teaching Cuff English, and because she's trying to impress Zane, that she'll be able to read and write. Cutting over to the main household, we see the interactions of the second born son, Lord Walter, and Viola. She claims to have no side in this firstborn versus secondborn debate, which drives Walter absolutely insane. He is a pick me child. Viola sneaks out to the Duke's estate and mistakes Cuff for a burglar, which, as you mentioned, a lot of girls
Boob
and boob
stuff.
stuff, and we get another moment of that. So, episode 8, check. A chess match between the Duke and Alice later that night as it storms reminds Alice of the first night she arrived at the Duke's manor. We go down a series of memories that showcase the development of the Duke and Alice's relationship since her arrival at the manor. Initially being very cold and uninviting towards Alice, uh, between her caring nature and invalidating his negativity with positivity, she begins to break down his walls over time. Deciding to leave since she refuses to do so, he wanders out into a storm, deciding to succumb to the cold uh, that he find that he found himself caught in, only for Alice to show up and cool him off before bringing him home. The Duke reveals to Rob, with Alice present, that he has grown fond of her. Taking him back to the present day in their chess game, her winning, him prompting that it's not fair how things are, basically.
Sure. Um, Cuff learns to read and write. Fun, cool. Cuff and Zane work at the circus now. Fun, cool. What are we doing? What's
Yeah.
going on here? Lord Walter could be a cool character. Could be cool. The Duke's younger brother.
I like this character in terms of it being a comedy,
Sure.
because like he walks around and like, oh my god, so cool, but then like the few people who he probably actually cares about getting the recognition from probably
Mhm.
just don't give it to him, being his
No,
sister and his mother.
because they keep calling him the second born,
His
and
second born, and he's
hates
like,
it.
why are you saying that? And it's like,
Yeah.
well, it's the truth.
Yeah.
But he just can't handle the truth,
Sure.
so he has a
Could be a
complex
cool
about it.
character. I want to see him interact with other people. That'd be
Other than
cool.
Viola, yeah, but
Yeah.
given the situation, I don't know how much of that we'll get, because it's like, he's trying not to make mom mad, and Viola just doesn't care.
He'll probably end up in Alice's boobs too. In the end, everybody's going to be in Alice's boobs at some point, because even when we didn't even mention it, that when in episode 5, whenever Zane came out, Cuff was just in
Oh yeah,
Alice's
Cuff was
boobs.
stuffed in Alice's boobs because she found her on the lake, so she was like, "Oh, I was trying to warm her up."
In every single episode of these
And even
4
Cuff was
episodes that we
like, "That's
watched.
never happened to me before."
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Everybody's in you, whatever. There's that
Whatever.
one saying where it's like, in the future, everyone will have their 5 minutes of fame or something like that. 15 minutes of fame. I don't know. In the future, everybody will be in Alice's boobs. So
It's an inevitability.
it's a what?
It's a
What's the
canon
me?
event.
Yeah.
I still haven't seen the movie, so
No, it's only on TikTok. Yeah, it's a canon event that I was trying to find the
apparently
words. Thank you, thank
that's a
you.
Spider-Man,
That's a
the new Spider-Man
Spider-Verse thing.
reference, but I still haven't seen it.
I've seen the clip on Twitter because I was like, "What's the fuck's a canon event?" But everybody being in Alice's boobs is a canon event here. Viola meets Cuff. More stuff. It's
More
not what you think.
in boob stuff.
I'm on top of a girl, and we're girls, and I don't care, man. I don't care. Give me a story. Give me something.
And love Cuff to death. She's just like, "Oh, okay, can I go to sleep then?"
Yeah.
She just not a single thought.
No
Like I
thoughts.
said, love these characters, not in love with the situations they're in.
Forget everything you know. So we find out that, or we go back in time and we do this whole flashback thing.
Yeah.
That the big thing I saw, the big takeaway for me, is that Alice wanted to live in the shed. That was the big thread
That's right.
in my
I
head,
meant to
because
bring that.
because
You brought
last
that up.
week
Why is she living there when
I
there's
was
a
like,
whole
"What?"
mansion?
Yes, why is the help living in a shed whenever this man has
That's where
a
the help
huge ass
lives.
mansion? But we see Rob leading her into this shed, and he was like, "Are you sure you want to live here?" And she's like, she likes cramped quarters, which could be something, probably
I'm sure
nothing.
there's a big broom closet somewhere in that house that they could give her.
Yeah,
I'm
for
just
sure.
with how big that thing is, like, I'm sure there are some respectably sized broom closets.
The thing that continues to bring me back to the Alice is her mother thing is that they mention it way too many times for it not to be a thing.
It's something.
It's
They're
something
doing
there
something with that.
because Rob again
You really
says
do
that
take after your
Alice
mother.
takes after her mother. And I'm
And then
like,
her response is, "Everybody tells me that."
everybody tells me, yeah, what
Yeah.
what is something's
What's the
going on?
point? What's the point? What was the reason?
What's the reason? Probably there's nothing. It's probably nothing. I want it to be something. They
I'm gonna
could be
be so
something.
mad if it's nothing. This
Well,
is right now for me.
next
We're
week.
we're we're talking about episode 8. Again, we've reviewed. We're in episode 31, so we have many episodes to draw from now, in reference. And the Alice takes after her mother thing is my future diary. There's a room full of dead people thing. Where if the show just drops this thread, it's there's nothing, there's no forgiveness. There is no way you set all that up just for it to be completely dropped.
Well, next week we'll
That's
find out.
next week we will find out.
Um, it's got to be something. I really hope it is. Fingers crossed. There's got to be something to everybody, literally everybody, mentioning her mother. And we know, find out next time. We know two things that Alice's mother's dead, the witch that turned the curse on to
The
the
Duke
Duke
is
is
dead.
also dead.
Two things can
That
be true at the same time.
that the what's her name? This bone lady,
Bayless.
Daleth, was an acquaintance of her mother. I don't know, man. It's got to be something somewhere. Um, so they do this whole flashback thing again. I wanted this a long time ago. I wanted this not in episode
In the
8.
first set,
Do something
in episode 4 or 5.
because it would help. It would put so much context to all the things that has happened, and probably would have made me like them more or want or root for them more because now I
Oh
know.
yeah, easy. The in the episode 4, the Duke, Alice, and Memories of Snow, the one where she makes him a scarf. That should have prompted this. Like, oh
Because
my,
of the
like
snow.
she's making me a scarf. I would like she's making me a scarf just like, oh my god, it's just so frustrating. Yeah. They
This
were
should
they
have
were
been
out in the
episode
snow for
4.
the whole day. They were out in the snow for the
Yeah.
whole day, just like it was a snow day for them, and
Yes.
this could have happened then. And then just like, I understand in that episode we get Cuff finding the earring in the snow, but I'm sure that you can still work that in at like the end of the episode and then make that a Cuff cliffhanger, and then the next episode have them talking and meeting Cuff.
Give us an anime. We've done
Give us
31.
structure. Give us
No, I meant
structure, give us progression.
I meant give make me and you in charge of an anime.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Let us help your anime.
yeah.
Let the Jules and Matt anime hour help you by making your anime better. Here, this is
Not
all the
stuck.
stuff we would do here, right there.
It's like,
But
yeah,
I
I just
think, yeah, it should have been a lot earlier. Episode 7 and 8, I think, should have done so many things. Just so cut everything, cut it all.
yeah. And then episode 3, the shopping episode, make that episode 7, because then you get the build up for episode 4, where they reveal the history behind them after they do all the silly fun stuff together.
You know, you really don't have an anime when you're like episode 3, shopping episode already. Sure. And they're like, what do we got? Okay, we
And
got
it's
this cool
just
premise. The Duke kills everything he touches. Okay, cool. He's got a
such
maid.
a cool premise.
he's got a maid with big boobs, but she shows her thighs a lot, and I like fishnets, so she's gonna have fishnets a bunch every time. They're like, okay, okay, cool, cool, cool. Do
And
we
then
ever find out who the witch is?
somebody
Why?
somebody else speaks up in the boardroom, and then we're gonna make their relationship realistic and have progression, right? And then we're gonna give the audience what they want, and then that guy gets thrown out the window.
Yes, we got to make the
All
meme
right,
for
so
sure.
back to business.
Yeah, back to business.
Business, business, business. Yeah,
Cuffs boobs
it's
though.
really it's these boobs. It's really
Yeah.
frustrating because yeah, there's so much. Like I pulled up my notes from the other episode too, and I'm just looking at everything side by side, and it's so frustrating because there is so much just tweaking and reworking where it's just like it could have been so much better. They have so much potential that they're working with. Like you said, it's a great concept. He kills everything that he touches. All right,
And he has
so
this love and he
yeah,
wants this love with somebody else. I'm like, oh,
but he can't
yes,
have
here
it.
we go.
Yes.
Another take on like the Beauty and the Beast. Here
Oh
we
yeah,
are.
I
I'm
was
so
I was gonna mention that too. The fact that Alice shows up on a stormy winter cold night is literally paralleling Beauty and the Beast, how Belle shows up after getting lost on a cold winter stormy night. So she was seeking shelter. It's not quite literally the same situation, but they are parallels that,
obviously
cold
they know
wintry
that
night.
because they did reference Alice in Wonderland too. So they do know
Yeah,
the stories that they're pulling from.
exactly.
They're trying to make something else.
Which
And
I'm
it's just not
okay with.
sure.
I'm okay with trying to make something else. I'm okay with
If it's
trying to
done
take
right.
something and put a little twist on it. That's what, that's where the saying "there's nothing new under the sun" comes from, because, everybody, you can make the fallacy that everybody grows up experiencing the things that they like, and so they'll only tend to draw from those things if they do to create moving forward.
Mhm.
You can't create something completely new, technically. That's where that comes from. So I'm okay with that concept. I love it. I love all this new stuff. I love seeing all these new takes on old stories, especially when you have Disney in the mainstream just retelling the same stories we've already seen, literally beat for beat, and they're not even animating them anymore, yada yada. Um, so I love this where it's trying to go with this. Like I want to love this, I should say, but I can't because there's too many like etchy undermining moments that take out the weight of the emotional beats. And again, the general structure is just leaving me wanting so much more because it's
Because
not cohesive.
no, because they got cool characters. They got good music, good
Great music.
piano stuff. They got really cool backdrops. A lot of the stuff even in these episodes again looked like paintings. Like if
Yes,
whenever they move through a scene instead of the
the
3D
art
animated
style is on point.
characters, the art style of everything feels like a painting and I'm like, "Oh, here we are." Like I'm so in it, and it I think it's just the story that they're trying to tell or the stuff that's in the way of the story more so the
Yes,
stuff that's in the way. But again, here in episode 8, um I think they really tried with this episode. Again,
they did.
the only downside in this one for me is that it should have come earlier. But
Yes.
a lot of this stuff with the telling of how they met, how they came together, and how much she loves him, I think the message here is that like you don't know the impact you have on someone,
Hmm.
and that Alice says she's only here if not for the sake of the Duke's kindness as a kid, and it's like, oh man, it's a cool thing to tell. Like it's cool. Like oh, like you don't know the Duke doesn't understand the impact he had because it was nothing to him, but then he remembers
But
it,
it
and
was
it's like oh,
everything to
it
her.
was everything to her, and it's like a
Exactly.
good message. It's like cool. It's a good message. I made the
The whole,
meeting meme for you guys.
the whole butterfly effect response.
Yes.
This decision will have future consequences, and consequences can be good or bad. Is there any way you could pull it up?
I can't. Well, okay, I can probably download it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. If you want to just vamp for a little bit, because this is so good.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dan.
Um,
This is
no, yeah,
so
it's just
good.
it's the same with like, yeah. Uh I lost the thought that I was just
Okay.
having about forget everything you know. um,
Uh, where'd it go?
the more I think about it, the further that thought gets for me. I
I
hate these
can't
moments.
find it. I don't know. What do you think? It's saving as a file. Why not a photo?
Um, oh yeah, it's nothing to him, but it's everything to her. So
Yes.
the whole butterflies effect response, this decision will have consequences whether they be good or bad. It's just I love how it's playing with that, and then it's also showing how, like, I like how we got to meet the Duke post him, like, getting to have people in his life and understanding that people care for him even though he's in the situation that he's in. And then we get to go back and see where he was at, like probably when he was just sent into the manor, how everything's all like destroyed, and everything's all like out of you know broken all over the place. It's a mess. Alice comes in
And I
and
like
he
that.
does the whole, if you can't clean this room in 3 days, then I'm going to fire you. And then she does it overnight. And it's like, why were you able to do this? Well, because, I thought about it being of use to you, and that made me want to work hard and get it done. Nothing more than that. And then he kind of, he starts to break down because he's like, oh my God, there can be people that care about me. There can be people that want to be close to me. And I think that scared him and sent him away running.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's a really great episode that's trying to create an emotional core
And
for
I'm
this
there for it.
series. And yeah, I'm there for it.
I'm
The
there for it if
parallels
it
to the
happened in
Beauty and the
episode
Beast
4.
continue to happen, because like after Belle came into the his mansion, like she started to clean up the place and make it look actually prim and proper again. And yeah, just break down those walls and make that beast feel like a person, make that monster feel like a human. um so I like this episode in a vacuum. I hate this episode as an episode 8,
Where do we go from
because
here?
exactly, this is in Beauty and the Beast. It's playing on the themes of the rose, and that if he can't love, then um the rose will break, all the petals will break off if he can't learn to love. But here we see somebody who cannot be loved because of their inability to be able to be touched.
Wait, Alice even has a rose too. Is that like a
I,
Beauty and the Beast? I just made the
it's
connection
Yep,
because it's a
it keeps
dead
going,
rose.
but it's that rose is already dead, but
It's a
it's going to keep its petals on because it got
yeah.
killed in a moment.
I didn't even make that
And
connection to that either. Oh
the
my
dead white
god.
rose stands for eternal love. They already do, like, have this love for each other, but
Yes.
the love is encased and it cannot be touched, just
What do you
like the white rose in
sure.
its case.
What do you think about these we see two sets of characters that are I'm still trying to pull this up or put it into our StreamYard thing. Um but what do you think about these two like relationships that we do see? Because we see Zane and Cuff, we see Alice and the Duke, of course, but like there were some Crunchyroll comments about like how they didn't there was some conflicting comments because there's some people that really liked that they had two couples that are forward with their emotions for the most part and tell each other and they know we know and they know how they feel about each other, but then some people didn't like that because they wanted the unrequited like, oh, will they, won't they, like how will they come together, but we already have these couples that are together, so maybe
Mhm.
that feels like the story is done, that feels like, oh, what's the point of the story because they're already kind of together.
Well, in the case of the Duke and Alice, it needed to spend more time emphasizing like the curse and how they have actively been trying to break the curse, but to no avail. And then they get this, oh, the witch is already dead, yada yada, and so they double down on their they double down on their efforts.
I finally got
Yeah,
it. Okay. So this is what me and Matt were talking about. Thank you to Dan, Average Sport. I appreciate the meme. Okay, guys, what's going to be in the next episode? Boobs, fishnets, story progression, and he gets kicked out of the boardroom.
Get that guy out of here.
That's literally this is it. This is the anime. This is the Duke of Death and his maid.
Yes.
Great. Thank you so much for that. That was really quick. We
So
appreciate it.
the Duke and Alice have that thing going on with the curse, and they need to really be able to more so flesh that out for the audience earlier on than episode 6.
Yeah,
With Cuff and Zane, it's this Zane wants to be with, like, Zane has a caring, like, I don't want to, for lack of a better term, he almost has like this sibling love that he seems to carry over Cuff, but can't see her that way because she doesn't act ladylike or whatever. So because like that's his thing, and Cuff wants to be able to like have thoughts so that way she can understand why, how she does feel about Zane, because we see, and I still don't know what's going on. They don't even address this. When the second one, the Duke said, "Oh, you must be pretty fond of him." Then Cuff just kind of like snapped and then like jumped out the window,
and then jumped out the window and
and they
didn't do
haven't
anything.
acknowledged that. Like, why did she just like stumble away? Like,
No,
was it because what he said upset her, or was it like a trigger word or response? Like, but I don't think Cuff understands that she like likes Zane. I think they don't know that they like each other, so to speak.
sure.
Even though they act as though they are a couple, it's just like th- they are each other's partners in experiencing the world,
Hmm.
because Cuff is a half blood and Zane is a witch trying to live in the human world.
Is a bird person
Bird person,
trying to live in
magic
a
user, my bad.
magic user because like
But
he
Alice and Duke,
understands.
their love is there. They speak on it, they show it, but they cannot act on it because of this curse. So it's like they kind of have two different types of relationships playing out, which I'm glad they're not just two of the same types of people.
Hmm.
And so yeah, like I find Cuff and Zane to be an enjoyable pair to riff off of Alice and the Duke, especially how Zane kind of like fawns over Alice, but then Cuff just like puts him in check by like kicking him in the face. I'm like,
Sure,
thank you. Somebody's getting kicked in the
somebody's
face
doing it.
for these lines, even if
So
it's the character on screen.
next week we're going to be doing the Duke of Death and His Maid. Watch episode 9 through 12, or listen to us talk about it next week. You don't have to
Mhm.
watch it if you don't want to.
If
I would love for y'all to watch it with us. That'd
yeah,
be great.
we'll
That me and
we'll
Matt are the
talk
only
about it
ones.
plenty
We'll talk about it plenty next week for sure,
if you
about
have
how this concludes,
yeah, if
because
you have one.
this is the only season. This is the only season of the Duke of Death and His Maid.
For
So
sure.
we're gonna talk about it. So hopefully it comes to a conclusion. We'll see, and we'll rate it on our board next week, next Thursday. We're gonna put it up here somewhere. I know where it's going, but
I
I won't say it.
oh no.
I know where I'm putting it. But again,
This
next week we
happens.
pick a new anime. You can submit 500 bits here on Twitch Live if you would like to add an anime to the chest. And we're going to be picking a new anime next week. We have quite a bit that our user submitted, and I have to put another one because this was Matt's pick. Let's remind everybody
Who's
that Matt picked
who
this
picked
one.
this anime?
That Matt is making me.
Who picked this anime?
I made this show and I invited Matt and I loved him to be I loved him enough to be my co-host, and then he makes me watch this every week. So this
Who
is the
picked this show?
who picked the show.
Where's the guy?
So yeah, next week we're gonna be
Who was
finishing
the
this
editor?
anime. We're gonna be finishing this anime. We're gonna pick another one next week as well. So Matt, where can they find you when you're not in somebody's boobs?
D's boobs. I'm not here talking about the Duke of Death and his maid. You can find me on my Twitch at Matt_Galley, or you could follow me on any of my socials at ITS Matt_Galley, ITS at the front. It's Matt_Galley. When we're not here, where can the people find you, Jules?
On Jules the Human, twitch.tv/Jules the Human. I stream some Diablo and stuff, or video games. And you can go check out the YouTube channel,
Thank you.
youtube.com/Jules the Human, Jules the Human, right down there. Yeah, Twitter, Instagram, all the same thing. And you can watch these episodes if you don't know and you're watching this late. You can watch all of the episodes here on Spotify. So if you have a Spotify account, you can watch the podcast and it comes up in the video form. If you miss anything, you can watch it on Spotify or on YouTube as well. So next week, finish this anime. Next
And then we'll
week,
pick something new.
new anime
Woo!
because I think this is
Woo!
it. This is
This
the
is
anime.
it.
This is how I remember it. Thank y'all so much, and we'll see you next week.
Until next time. Bye.